Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and it is the second time I made this video because I got a phone call and it is the second time. And the question about today is, do fat people have a biological advantage during famines, starvation, or survival scenarios? And just to completely fair, yes, they do have a biological advantage. But before your TikTok brains can handle more than 80 seconds of video, there are nuances and there are big factors that could make it very different. So I would say keep looking at the video to learn these important nuances. Uh, so before we start about talking about these life-saving nuances, if you're interested in detective stories, there will be a book called Bloody Crosses in the description. There's a link. It's in Dutch, so if you're interested, take a look, I would say. Alright, so fat people last longer during survival scenarios. Yes, short answer. But there are so many factors that need to be taken in account. I will go in a list of them because I don't want to miss anything. There are several conditions. For example, nutrients and water. If you got access to water, that's already a big thing. So we're not talking about a survival scenario where you're in the desert, because anybody will die within 3 days if they are, whether you're fat or you're skinny. So access to potable drinking water is already very important. Next thing I would say is nutrients. Nutrients are very important even during a famine. For example, certain nutrients will keep your body and your muscles good for doing labor or finding food, for example. So even if you don't find caloric foods like meat or some other plants that have caloric value to them, you need to get nutrients, so you can gather some plants and herbs to get certain vitamins, like for example stinging nettles, or say, how do you say this in English, rosemary. If you find those things, at least you can eat those and you can get those nutrients, that so your overall body will be more healthy and will lose less fat than before. I don't say it's much, but it's something, and it's something that helped. If you look into history, a lot of people who went into famine-ridden areas, they survived because they found all these kind of plants. Even though they did not have caloric values, at least they had nutrients, so their overall health would be better to find or produce some food, so to say. So that's already something very important to know, which plants have which nutrients. And certain plants, if you, especially if you're in a famine scenario, certain plants like pine trees have caloric value. So if you know this kind of stuff, you can last a little bit longer. Uh, Also electrolytes. So for example, if you don't have salt, yeah, electrolytes, you need them for your muscles. That could be also problematic if you don't have those, whether you're skinny or you're fat. Another thing that is very important are pre-existing conditions that you have. For example, people who are fat usually have had a lifestyle that was not that most healthy yet, and fat people have a bigger chance to have pre-existing conditions like diabetes and that kind of stuff. So if you're already suffering from those conditions, that will be make it worse. So even if you're fat and you have those conditions, that could even make it worse, for example. So that's something that you need to take in account too. It's another thing. Uh, Diseases is also something. Usually during a famine, your overall body health is going down. You're more susceptible to diseases. Your immune system is not working that good. And yeah, during a famine or starvation situations, general hygiene and the lack of clean potable water, or the energy and the labor to keep everything hygienic could be lower, and you have more chance to get certain diseases. And whether you're skinny or you're fat, once you get certain diseases during a famine, yeah, then it doesn't matter. You can literally shit yourself to death, for example. So that's also something that you need to take in account for. Uh, the thing is, uh, like I said, if you're fat, you can last longer. But whether you're fat or you're skinny, Usually, if you lose between 20 to 40% of your body mass, whether you're fat or you're small, you will have more problems with your muscles because the muscles will start to deteriorate. It will consume themselves, so to say. And the problem then is uh, the more muscles deteriorate, also your heart muscle and perhaps from other organs, the more chance that you will have heart failing. And that is usually something that happens in the biggest stages of starvation because your body is exhuming energy to the most vital parts, and even those vital parts don't get it, they will work less, and that is usually what starts the death in starvation. So that's something that you need to take into account to whether you're skinny or fat. Fat people will last longer in the short term, but in long term, anybody who loses between 20 and 40, which is already a big gap, so to say, that could be variable. People will probably last longer because they have an higher energy reserve, so to say. Um, Another thing I would say is your muscle mass. People, you can be a fat person, but you can have more muscles. So that's another thing. Like I said before, in starvation, your body will consume itself, especially muscle tissue when the fat reserves are depleted. But if you have more muscle, you have more energy, so to say, even if the fat reserves are depleted. So, and it's also making your muscles stronger. Like I said before, the deterioration of muscle mass will keep your organs and your heart longer working, so to say. So if you're fat and muscly, uh, like me, perhaps I think uh, it's kind of alright, but yeah, that's way better than you're just a fat person who is fat because they don't exercise and only eat junk food, for to say, and they have a sedentary lifestyle, so they don't use all their muscles with power or cardio, for example. That could be more problematic, even in a scenario with a skinny person. So that's something that you need to take into account. Another thing is very important is your lifestyle, and this is what I just talked my point before. If you have a bad lifestyle, uh, sedentary, junk food, no exercise, you let everything delivered to you, then you will have less muscle for the deterioration. You will have uh, more fat, but because you are less active, you will have less psychological will to go through. What do I mean by that? If you usually in a bad habit or a bad lifestyle, you will psychologically will not take advantage of your body, of your extra fat and your body mass, so to say. So if you already, like I said before, it's a short-term good strategy to being fatter in a survival scenario. But if you don't take advantage of that to gain more resources to help you go up because you psychologically are in a bad habit or a bad lifestyle, then that could be also be detrimental for a long-term starvation or famine scenario. Is what I'm trying to say. Uh, there are also it also is based on labor. For example, you can put a fat person with all the water that they have and nutrients in a room, and a skinny person with all the water and nutrients in a room. The fat person will last longer if they don't have to do anything. But that's not how the world works. Famines are usually man-made, and these will demand more labor and more physical exercise, so to say, for less intake of energy, and that's problematic because people who are more healthy will be put in a more harsh or more labor demanding uh, physical activities because you are more healthier than this very skinny person who is skinny to the bone. So yeah, you there will be more healthier people, healthier looking people will be more demanded to do the harder work. So that way, it's like when you're going on a hike, the strongest person must stand behind, so they can keep up with the slowest person. And the same thing is over there, because you have work to do. The more healthier person will do the hard work, and so that the skinnier person or the person who is more malnourished can do the lighter work, and that way it can deplete. They get both depleted equally, so to say, which is happening something very specific in communism. I would say it's a team, but whatever. Uh, all right, we had disease, labor. Uh, Another thing you need to take into account is if you are a fatter person and there is a famine, starvation, whatever there is less food available even in normal circumstances, you will be more likely to be robbed. And it is a point that I made many videos ago is when there is a famine, look like you're suffering too, because if there is famine, everyone is getting skinny, and even though perhaps you are prepared and you have more body mass than all your neighbors, for example, or because you don't have food, but because you're fat, you can last longer, people will think that guy got some extra food, let's rob him, and you might get killed, hurt, or be disadvantaged, or you get less food because they say during the rations, oh, you're fat, so you get less food than all those 20 skinny person here, and that way you can be put in a worse or a less better position than all the rest, so to say. So it's not only about yourself, but it's all others will perceive you. That persons will handle you. Is what I'm trying to say. So that's a big part, and this is something that could happen. I looked up some information about how did fat Holocaust survivors do in concentration camps and during World War II, in contrary to the skinnier ones. And the thing is, many people would say yes, they will last longer, but there was, you know, that kind of curve where you can be fat to you can it can be helpful to be fat to survive, but you cannot be too fat because then you will go down, because there was a selection procedure, for example, in this historical context, where the SS guards who had to when the trains come and the Holocaust survivors, the people who were sent to the death camps, they had to work themselves to death or they could be put in the gas chamber right away. So they had to make a decision. The weak ones, children, elderly, unhealthy person go to the gas chamber, and the rest can, or look fit, they can go work themselves to death as a benefit, so to say. So in that case scenario, if you're too fat, they can say you're no use to us. You will not get anything, or worse, will be put to death because you look like a drain on our resources. So that can be applied in several scenarios. And like I said before, example during the Holodomor in Ukraine during the 30s, there was a giant man-made famine by the Soviet Union, and yeah, imagine if there is some sort of food relief or villages come together and they say you will get less rations because you're fatter than the 20 skinnier persons who are almost on the brink of death. You see what I mean by that by the how others will perceive you, that you will be treated differently. Yeah, that's something that will happen. Um Another thing that could happen, and this is in the worst case scenarios, cannibalism. Uh, yeah, the moment that shit has gone so far, and it's not only in man-made famines, it can also be just like you're stranded on a small island because of a boat or an airplane crash, and it happened a lot in history that certain peoples were stuck somewhere and they had to eat others and sometimes even kill someone so others could eat and the group could last longer. Like, you know, the everyone had to draw a straw, that kind of stuff. Those things happened in history, and if it's not being done, let me say, democratically, because with a straw it can be anyone. There could be a code of honor or something, or some brotherhood, that someone will sacrifice themselves, but everyone agree that if it's me, I will do it if I'm being chosen. But it could be worse. It could be say that a whole group of skinny people will see one fat person and say, we will last longer with one people to that we kill, this one fat person that we kill, instead of killing three skinny people to last the same time, for example. So that's also something that could happen if you're more fat. That will be less favorable for your survival. So yeah, it's very dark, but it's something that you can uh, that you need to think about if we ask this sort of questions about less fat people less longer, because it's not only about energy, about don't only think about it economically, like yeah, fat, more energy, less longer. No, there's like everything I said before, there are so many factors that could be in play, that you cannot be too fat, or but you cannot um, have too little fat. How other people's are, the situations, scenarios, your conditions, your lifestyle before and during it. There are so many things. So I would say, make up what you want about this, and try to live healthy. Get This is also something I want to say. um, if you Many people say, yeah, it's always better to be just in shape and you will survive anyway, because of all the things that I just said, for for more skinnier people. But if you really look in the world, uh, for example, if we look at survivors, like these tribes people in Africa, yeah, they hunt for their own food and forage, but you don't see buff people. For instance, you don't see kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger people with their muscles. You don't see how do you say what is an example? Like you see those buff Marines. You don't see these type of people in tribes persons, because you usually see them even with a belly, because they had successful hunts or periods, so they get a little bit more fat. But you don't see them getting real muscles like this. Not to brag, but yeah, because more muscles can mean that you will use up more energy. That is something that you will learn if you do fitness or gym. That the more muscle you have, the more fat you will burn, and that's also something that you need to take in balance. If you're fat, but you have muscles, but you think I will last longer, but you have more muscles than the other persons, and you will burn more fat rapidly, and people will say, "You're fat. How can you not last this long?" So yeah, there are so many factors that could be in place that I even probably forget a few points that I wanted to make right now. But I hope this video was a little bit educational and made you think about certain things. If you know any other examples in history or places in the world where this could be a good example of what of everything I said, please let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and stay healthy. Get a little bit fat, get a layer of fat, because it's also better for your immune system. And it is another point that I've forgotten in the video, but yeah, I made it now. Get a little bit fat, get a little bit muscle, eat healthy, exercise regularly, live a little bit, live like our prehistoric ancestors is what I'm trying to say, perhaps. And that way you will, it will be painful sometimes, but you will live more quality. Perhaps you will not live longer, but quality of life is, in my opinion, better than duration of life. Quality over quantity. But I've been talking long enough about just a video about if fat people live longer than skinny people in famines. So, see you next video, I would say. Cheers.